Hello, America. You know how you've never seen, even though it's so much worth so much money, which we're going to monetize this. That and how no one ever fights, really, with passions and emotions when they need to, about quality of premises treatments, where and how we have the overt, we have simultaneously, in other words, the overt overall proofs that America had left. Our founders wanted us to understand how the founding parents of each modern nation, not just America, but America's founding parents, they wanted us to understand that and how there were roles with an entrenched breaching organized crime method. And you could see discern positive's identity. Because nothing's positive, but one identity is only positive everywhere it is. And anything that is it. So even if it's negative, what's positive about slavery? Nothing. But the fact that now we can use it. It's true always, not denying any exceptions. It's bad. It's one thing we can agree about. It's one thing that we could discern. The person who doesn't agree about that is manifest as a quality of fact treatment nature, not just as criminal insidiousness nature, as a style of logic, as a style of positive and negative treatments that can't afford free speech, that can't afford science, that is actually true always, actually speaking about positive and negative properly. So the value of it is that it is overtly tactically ulterior from the value/value progression we are as an identity, individuals, groups, and species, body of volume. Wake! So they are recorded, the branches of government individually grouped and together. In crime methods pretending they don't realize all that it is too, as victims, but as victim predators. Now there are hundreds of nations at once shared policing here and there. That's just the way the jobs they fell into them. This is, in other words, we could know about other history. Oh, how could you read? Well, I'm an expert on these other nations A through Z, other than our A whatever we are. In other words, but they want to fight about that. We have the quality of experts simultaneously with the branches of government individually grouped and together, crime methods. Every hundreds of nations at once, remember. Because if one nation's, any location, area, and state that starts using a quality of fact, this quality of fact treatment, this quality of logic, no, of ratiocination, using that identity that both ratiocination and pseudo-ratiocination share, where and how they are distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously the same identity of value/value progression. I'm not a doctor. I delineate the delusions from the criminal foreign influences with this. Now we're going a different nature of private with the branches of government originally still. I'm not talking about actual doctors of physical health. We have the doctors of mental health. However, their opinions regarding those people, because they're creating physical conditions. They're keeping research and stuff like that. Opinion nature is criminally foreign influenced. Remember, hundreds of nations at once. They already have been needing to counter negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures that not only did not one modern nation originate the causes of them, each modern nation, hundreds of nations at once, they were blamed on other things, others themselves, and that was self-valued as identities. Now those identities standing, the only fact-cheaping nature you're allowed to hear are qualities of fact-cheaping nature, not just as criminal and seditious nature, but as styles. Same reason that you have to have a style in boxing. The same reason you have to agree to a style where you're going to make it for this, but use it for science reasons. And this is where the martial arts, boxing are one. Boxing is fun. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. Boxings as circles. But distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. By that one identity. This is why and how math works. Which you need to understand where and how distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. English and the languages, syntax of our quality of fact-cheaping nature again. Again, we are speaking about positive. A criminal and seditious nature is going to be a style of positive and negative treatments. So, for example, it is necessary to counter how simultaneously the branches of government are in collusion with crime methods simultaneous. They also already have been grouped and are grouped crime methods, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously in relationship to this identity of value/value progression that inventions work or not in relationship to. They are, again, further positive or negative or not in relationship to it. There are bonded semi-natures that are complete identities, but their complete identity has a semi-nature relationship to the hierarchy of complete identity /S, which is the one identity of value/value progression and demonstration to each person, individually grouped and together so we could see its body of its value progression system. That markets also another whole phenomenon attached, tactical ulterior, not the cause of anybody, forced to rules. So we're going to have to, this is about nature too. So when we have the questions and people in the whole process of ratiocination/pseudo-ratiocination, by the way, I just want to get off my mind on the side. What if they really, really weaken, like say something other bad happens, and they don't, no, there's definitely no time for, so what if they weaken the thing? Like, so then make the people, then make it affect people. So then, in other words, weaken it enough that you know that their immune system will be able to overcome it. Okay, but forget that. Nobody try to do that. I'm not a doctor. So, but I'm going to delineate the delusions from the criminal foreign influences in the positive and negative treatments, though, of the mental health care. And this requires discernment offensively, already invested. Perjury, racketeering juxtaposed with physical delusions. And so, as natures of positive and negative treatment that can't afford proper finite fact treatments. Sequence, true, they can't afford to have even realized sequence shifts. The order of the finite, active, progressive, and together. Each modern nation is kept in identity. That fact treatment nature-wise not just has to do business with and policing each other with the identities of other nations in relation to our fact treatment. Identity, how identity is the course, /s, of as things, box sings, as circles too. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. I tell you true alone. Boxing. No, I'm playing around. I'm trying to prepare you because because I'm using also evidences. For example, since I was in grammar school, this has nothing to do with trying to impress people where I want to take on how everyone's physical we're going to take them on. I want to show you how to do it. Everyone wants to do this, they're told. About how they're preventing demonstration. About how we have liars, only allowed to speak formally. To all locations, areas, states, inter-sciences, individually grouped together, victims. Now they have to make overall allegations, pretend these are all allegations, but they're preventing and having prevented us from having free speech. So we have to deal with the judicial branch and the executive branch together, grouped, their crime methods. This is juxtaposed with how they keep Washington, D.C. and the World Trade Center used remotely, in layers, through all database relationships. Further, line progressions from that, right back to all locations with this breaching method. And further, inter-sciences, individually grouped together. Sciences share an identity, but everyone was employed, forced, by a breaching method before our founding parents were born. This is also relevant to its roles with the pathology of zoning laws, things that are supposed to protect us, criminal insidiousness natures of positive and negative, fact treatment nature defenses, as styles manifest per what is actually forcing this. But so in other words, Wethersfield police said they described my living situation. They described my family. They attached me with FBI and CIA families also. Overt criminal enterprises, and the witness protection program, associated also with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, associated also with the people that charge those things, encounter them, interbranch people like a Fienza family on off the state judicial branch offices. Rules also with the Dillon family, with Marines, Marine program with my town, intermilitary, Air Force. Then they switch things and they use the right to lie. Remember, there's a guy who looks just like James Comey, recorded and involved with further predicate acts and wrongdoing, my lawyer, inside of New Britain Superior Court. Sequence shifts that are relevant to a pattern of confessions tied to the people also on off the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center in Manhattan, right before the towers were attacked and knocked down from the sky. There had been presented inside to the panel of judges legal documents that had been post-dated from inside the court. In other words, they had been timely brought to the court. And when you bring them to the court, they put them into a machine, and they put the date and the time that the papers were delivered to the court. The Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center towers. That day, but we were in that court, and they'd presented post-dated documents from inside the court in Manhattan. It also already part of the case /S. This was in Washington D.C. before that. Then we came home, and then we saw. Now we're in Connecticut. I came home to Hartford, Connecticut. I was living at the time. I was living in West Hartford or New Britain, and we're going to school. And before that, and people had already confessed and recorded and demonstrated the Connecticut courts. I recorded means to demonstrate this were involved, intercities, with worse than just interstates, and worse than just internations, and with people that have this relevant to when I was in grammar school. They're distinct, and when everyone's in grammar school, my subject is using how what is true always and not denying exceptions, an exception in nor exception nature, which is relevant, for example, with the criminal and seditious nature, the science here. In other words, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, intercities, worse than interstates. They have maintained lie progression, cover-ups against everyone, and they have roles with it self-valued per a method that keeps uses of things overt like that, like about how slavery was forced by a breaching organized crime method using human fact treatment nature. They methodically use that to maintain methodically self-valued roles as criminal and seditious natures that, in other words, in relationship to logic, with integrity. And in other words, we have answers that little kids could make that would reveal a protraction of a quality of logic that would reveal that and how American history has been told wrong through criminal foreign influences since founding, pounding drums. Now this ducks behind the phenomenon of how we have hundreds of nations at once needed to counter all kinds of causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures through criminal foreign influences already entrenched to all locations, areas, and states. So this built everyone to counters and everything like that, and to jobs, and to titles, and to treatments of that. Identity treatments that can't defend themselves and afford science is free speech. And this is what America is about. But we have to counter how the branches of government were kept criminally foreign influenced as the experts encountering the other experts countering us. And wrongly here or there are counters to each other, even when it is right. Because what is self-valued here and there are qualities of fact treatment nature with physical delusions and collusion, especially with mental health care, especially with all the way they've been creating physical conditions and working hard to, and preventing people from cure real simple. For example, this is worse than extortion. Wethersfield Police now you bring their family members. They have their witnesses bring their family members into it. Everyone makes confessions about other people, strangers. You know, they'll exploit you for being nice to each other. They're distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously exploiting people for being aggressive to people, rude. Because they've been attaching people with the news too. This is private also. WFSB. And you guys are pretending it's personal. Then you have to lie about me but that's why in New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts, before the World Trade Center attack, and distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, also when I was a kid, I had asked for help regarding the interbranch, the courts, judges, and prosecutors, and their police forms associated with the judicial branch, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously with the executive branch police forms, and overt criminal enterprises, Even the witness protection program is now involved with those same people, intercities, distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, even when they weren't on those locations. Because of the fact, treatment, nature, organized crime. Acts and methods recorded. So it's way worse than this, but that's why that's tied to their motivations of why the Wethersfield police are recorded lying about my living locations and about why I did, because you can't record the police. But I knew, and you're supposed to be able, the law, the two, it says you can. But they have the people with the prisons also in collusion with them, with the same house/S that they involve with their predicate acts narratives and predicate acts delivery system method roles, which has them all as methods, motivations, natures, needs, interests, real for evil, but not the one that I'm concerned with and that you all are concerned with, not realizing, and only dishonesty speaks forward. Only defenses of styles, needs, and to defend justifications that criminally foreign influence precedents and statutes hold simultaneously manifest, where there are positive and negative, fact, treatment, nature, quality, formally, informally, and not just overt criminal enterprises, not just all that private maintained victim predators like everyone else, with not just slavery of with the pigment racketeering to keep not just understanding individual group together, the significance of this with every finite detail and with sequence true. So it is recorded also the physical delusions are with an aggression that is also simultaneously pretending to be about peace. This is also on-off, what do they call, elections locations, also as religious locations. These are also fact, treatment, nature-oriented identity thefts, frauds, roles. Oh, they blame it on, but that's just the technology. It's wire crime method. Your house was stolen, whatever like that. This is how they keep here and there. In Russia and America, for example, there's a pathology of homes that has recorded criminally foreign influence here and there, self-valued rolls with it. Pathology of infrastructure that was forced with the fact, treatment, nature, torture of, and slavery of our founding parents, because of how it was entrenched and how it was. Don't forget, before the Civil War, they already set forth a transatlantic cable. Now, even if they made this stuff up too, the fact, treatment, nature, styles. See, we're gonna use what is true always, not denying exceptions, not denying exception nature. That is one identity of truth, and as truth, as a quality of truth that is distinct from qualities of truth and truth's uses as positive as, in other words, a criminal insidiousness nature, like a wrongdoer, is gonna make positive and negative treatments distinctly from someone who's not criminally foreign influenced, and in layers, as American history is properly about. See, the sciences share an identity, but they can't defend their takes on what law is. So they have either you agree to the criminals, to justifications of it the way they have it, or they also have distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously they keep self-valued roles with what they wouldn't with the perfect world forsaken, with each position prevented free speech offensively and methodically, effectively. We have the same people that are supposed to be looking out for mental health of little kids. That's their agenda. That's what they're pretending. They're drugging little kids with courts. In other words, you can't just counter the private, you have to counter the various natures of courts. These were ones with roles with their investigators, individually grouped and together. You're going to see crime methods that Connecticut, intercities, interbranch, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously were involved with. Uses of their identities, individually grouped and together, per a predicate action delivery system method that American history is really about. So it's a truth that they have jobs on the experts of American history. It is, in other words, you're going to see how they're using the truth, about how they know a little more details. They're leaving out exception nature. And all that is tied to that, and the value of, and with the value of sequence true. I tell you, true alone. Boxy. So it is necessary. They have crime methods where everyone speaks to other, and they're forging names, switching names, make confessions. The police and the courts distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. So we're going to examine how they have motivations for roles in collusion with layers of criminally foreign influence, individuals, groups, and the whole thing. Boxing. So, since before America's founding parents were born, the pathology of infrastructure that is not overtly tactically denatured was tactically denatured to maintain itself only capable of self-valuing the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, blame the other things other than themselves. The identity of evolution will have its value progression system here, or it will force it from here, Leith of high D's. And then will be negative value nature progression. Negative value nature to positive value nature progression somewhere else. Earth's simultaneously. So 2020 is an important year. There are proofs by the identity bigger than math, smaller than math, that English is revealed to teach. Evolution science only feels like games. Who trains? English was revealed to teach evolution science. What's going to really cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures? Now, so we have uses of opinions that they can't afford. I've been asking mandated law. It's evidence. No, for example, no. So leading up to the World Trade Center, this is where we have. You guys are also delaying the whole time. I asked to report things. You have people denying things, pretend, you're calling me a liar, would sue us. They have the interbranch individually grouped together. They're doing that, tied to them forging names, switching names. Their roles with a whole bunch of other nations. And the witness protection program stewards and uses of all those people involved with that. And like the defiance of people, male and female, a whole bunch of people associated with foreign and domestic police forms and families, on and off WFSB's location in Rocky Hill, on and off the Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts with two Mendez police brothers and other people in their family and tied to their family, and fabricating conversation with me that never was in life, ever, a conversation with the older Mendez police brother, also recorded involved with his brother on and off New Britain Superior Court, involved with people through time with relevant predicate acts, wrongdoing. That's the executive branch. That's with the New Britain Superior Court. These are the same ones leading up to the World Trade Center attack. that were involved with more tied to proven post-dated documents shown to the Ninth Circuit right before that. That proven led to a 2006 case now in Connecticut. Case in 2006, part of a case /S that was ongoing at the time of my father's death. That's with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, was a co-defendant with federal criminals, three that had roles with predicate acts with the campuses I went to, and with their family members, and on off the campuses, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, to hide libel aggressions. For example, tied to confessions from people that were in my grade, but I didn't have a class with them. Had no interactions with them, like, and didn't see them, a lot of them at all, ever, outside of the school. Now, these are people with doctors that, with WFSB, pretend I had ties to doctors as a kid that never were. These are also people tied, when I was in grammar school, they made confessions about how people associated with Central Connecticut State University were involved with this. Which I didn't, in other words, they just made confession out of nowhere. They're involved with sequence shifts, with fabricating audio and video. Now, I understand it now more because they've been attaching little kids and their family members to fake locations. And the interbranch, distinctly not, the branches individually grouped together, or their police forms themselves. Now, they've been doing this also with all private tied to them. They've also been doing this with overt criminal enterprises, with roles with that. And then a different kind of private with the medical databases and their exploitation of anomaly associated with that. As people involved with the judicial branch and the executive branch, grouped and individually crime methods. We're going to examine. This will show you manifest how the other, like, political families are kept victim predators, and how they're kept styles pretending differences are about, this is where they have self-valued physical delusions, self-valued criminally foreign influence fact treatments, qualities, styles. Self-valued on a mass scale, all locations, areas, states, quote, experts, unquote. So before that, I already asked people for help. Those people made confessions, and the very short communications. Those people got scared because there were judges and prosecutors, all that, involved with and military, police, foreign and domestic. Military, like people associated with a Kuwaiti military that associated intimately with a Dean Keyes, as it has her boyfriend from a Tunxis community college. So they get the identity of the ground locations. Then they have the other sciences and experts involved with with database racketeering, where they have the sense and sensibilities for the schools and the school shootings. These are also people involved with other, like how they have phenomenon tied with hundreds of nations at once, shared policing of the schools, shared policing of industries. And so this is also with prison cliques in relationship to Weathersfield interbranch, on and off the state judicial branch offices, on and off the state prison offices, and houses next to them. And the sensibilities of all those family members, on and off these locations, uses of identities can't defend themselves and us at the same time, and or themselves at the same time. All exceptions, exception nature, are in demonstration of it. Their self-valued roles with value nature systems tactically ulterior from the value system of free speech and of science that our founders wanted to speak for themselves and for ourselves. It's all right. So we have to observe. They have also Facebook pages, for example, Facebook. It's nothing. It's not your fault. You don't understand, and if you have people involved with that, it's more their fault, individually. Like the individual's former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. One's directors before him and since, recorded and involved with this. They have been preventing, leading up to the World Trade Center attack, roles with relevant, further, yet proven, but recorded, tied to the proven post-dated documents presented to the Ninth Circuit Court. The same people involved with that were also involved with this off-campuses that was tied to the on-off campuses confessions and stuff with the interbranch family members and their kids when I was a kid, and now their uses of them. All exceptions, exception nature, are in demonstration of it. There are also proofs that they have interbranch